I'm somebody who looks at a show kind of like a tapestry, where you have all of these individual threads that run from left to right, and how you weave them together, becomes the tapestry of the show.
Take a closer look at what you're doing to us.
I really loved this series. Starting with season 1, watched it, was fully immersed into this world, and was very excited to hear about the early season 2 pickup, and then was very sad to hear that that was going to be the end of the series. And watching this, it's such a satisfying conclusion to the overall story. I wanted to know, at what point did you know that this was going to be the final season?
Right smack dab in the middle of COVID. After we had to shut down production. And Amazon and Legendary and I were sitting around saying, okay, I'd started some storylines that were going to branch out into future seasons. And as COVID kept going longer and longer and longer, and we were looking down the barrel of, we had all this talented cast and crew who needed to get back to work or take care of their families. Amazon and Legendary and I actually agreed that it would probably be better to end the show so that everybody could go have a life. And so what that meant was we retooled some storylines. We cut some storylines out, threw it out, went back as soon as we were capable of shooting again. Once production restarted, we went back and ended the season. Amazon was great. They were like, I got a call basically from Amazon and said, we want to do it the right way. What do you need? And I said, honestly, I think I need 2 more episodes now, because now I'm going to end this whole puppy. So we were able to go back, invent new storylines, seed them in all the way from the beginning, so that at the end of episode 10, you would have closure to everyone's story. And one of the things that I really wanted to respect was how incredibly hard each of the players, the cast, had thrown themselves into their roles, just uprooting their lives, moving to Prague to be a part of this gigantic world build. And I very much wanted to honor each one of them. And so we looked at not just all the storylines, but we looked at how do we give each one of these actors one of their best scenes of their whole career, or multiple best scenes of their career. It was a chance to kind of end it in a way that both is satisfying, if that's the bitter end of the show, or could potentially, be a spinoff at some point, or go off and do new adventures. We left it open-ended in that way, just in case, because crazier things have been known to happen in Hollywood.
And I was going to say that that's what it feels like at the end, is that you've reached the end of this volume of the story, but there's that room for it to open up into other places. And it's such an expansive world, and there was so much world building that had to be done to get between these 2 seasons. Is there anything in the works to maybe continue this in another medium that you've been thinking about?
As of now, not to my knowledge, no. As of now, the show is done. But again, crazier things have happened. I think that there's a lot of stories to tell in this amazing world that was created by Travis Beacham and Renee Echeverria. And I think that, I'm sure Legendary wouldn't mind if Amazon said, hey, let's make more.
I thought if we were peaceful, they'd show us mercy. But now we know the truth. If they shoot at us, nail our heads against a wall, they will pay for it in their own blood.
If you go after them, they'll come for all of us.
And so obviously you had to make decisions, like you said, to trim certain things, alter certain things like that. Had this not been was this the envisioned ending that long term, let's say the series had gone for 5, 6, 7 seasons, is this where you think that it eventually would have ended up, or did the ending completely change because of the condensed timeline?
No, I think that, look, one of the things that we look at is how much runway do we have to tell a story, right? Mm-hmm. As a writer's room, right? You want to know, are we doing 8 episodes? Are we doing 10? Are we doing 50? Like, how ambitious should we be? Like, how many different ideas should we introduce to the audience? How many different story threads should we ask the audience to track in their brains, right? Like, and I'm somebody who looks at a show kind of like a tapestry, where you have all of these individual threads that run from left to right, and how you weave them together, becomes the tapestry of the show. So, no, I think that it was constantly evolving as our runway changed, right? And it had to. Like, I was envisioning, storylines that went to other continents, and the world really opening up and expanding over multiple seasons, based on the great season 1 that had been created by others, and kind of was my opportunity to take it and run with it. No, I think this is one of those COVID sob stories, sadly.
And before the season started, I got a chance to talk to Orlando and Cara, and they had indicated that there was they had a little bit of involvement in kind of developing where their characters were going over the course of this season, or where they would end up at least. So seeing the ending there, it feels just really satisfying to see where they ended up. Did their involvement in kind of talking it through, did that alter where you originally thought it was going to go?
No, because we were all kind of in the boat together at the very beginning. They'd been playing these roles for a long time, and they were my fellow executive producers, and I wanted their creative input. In terms of when I look at a story, like, I don't want to start and end the story in the same place, right? Like, at the beginning of season 2, Philo and Vignette are lovers together, in essence, right? That's where you ended season 1, right? So how do we change? Would I put them through trials and tribulations and end them up happily ever after? Given the story that we were telling, right? Given that he has kind of a very different arc and political viewpoint and story than she has, kind of the opposite during the season. So it would have felt artificial, I think, for them to end up together in that way at the end of the season. But likewise, this is where, life, inspires art. Cara is a major advocate for queer rights. One of the stories that we were exploring was polyamory on the show. We had more polyamory stories originally planned, but COVID kind of had us rein those in so that the show could just end. But we're ending the show now in a way that Vignette is very much in love with Philo, and her heart is still open to Philo, and yet her heart is open to Tourmaline, and she marries Tourmaline at the end. But the Picts have they're polyamorous, so they have multiple chosen. They're all, families can be a big size, right? So what that did for me is it gave us an interesting and different ending. It also gave a kind of a new flavor to what I think the audience was expecting. Cara and Carla, who plays Tourmaline, we were all thrilled with this ending, and it kind of sets up for a longer arc potentially that can live on in fan fiction.
No one can stand in the way of what is coming. They, all human.
And I think that's really exciting because have watching as much TV as I have over the years, I've been burned by getting so invested in the series and then it gets canceled. You never get to see how it turns out. And it's a satisfying conclusion, but it's not an ending, which is really nice that it could continue and go on. But my last question really for you is, now that this is wrapped and this story's been told, what's next for you? You've done so many different genres and things. What's the next sandbox you're going to play in?
Well, I've got an overall deal at Amazon. I have a company called Crime Think, and we're developing a couple of different things. I'm doing something with Blumhouse and Kevin Bacon at the moment. Nice. And in the future, there's some other stuff coming down the turnpike, but I'm not yet ready to announce any of that. I have to go through channels.